Death Guard Daemon Engines. Good, bad, indifferent? How do you feel about them? Welcome back to this episode of Dice Club, where we're going to just take a closer look at some data cards for Daemon Engines. They're actually not called Daemon Engine anymore, but they do have the vehicle and Daemon keyword. So that's what we're going to focus on. So the Hellbrute is not going to be included in this, although the Hellbrute was always a discussion whether or not the Hellbrute was a Daemon Engine or not. But I digress. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to just get into the Daemon Engines. But before we do, I'd like to ask everybody to hit that like, subscribe, notification button. It really does help the channel grow, and I'd like to thank everybody who's done so already. Also, we did start a membership. If you click the link below, it says membership information. It gives you an idea of what we do as members and what I offer you guys as members as far as just things that I show my appreciation for, like these signs, these biz boards that will be custom billboards and put on the table. The winner of this month's membership was Kyle, one of my members. He asked me just to make a recess sign up and autograph his name onto it. Kyle was here, so I did that. Not autograph, but graffitied it. And then on the bottom of it, put his little, he's a big Wolverine fan, so put the little comic book, like a little comic book image of Wolverine on there as well. And then just to show we can customize some different things, I did Alias, which was a Netflix show, Jessica Jones. It's really good. You should go ahead and check it out. With all that being said, let's get into this. So Death Guard Daemon Engines are interesting, right? Because we already know the combination between Mortarion and the Plague Burst Crawlers. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the Plague Burst Crawler part of this. But there are some interesting things that, in my opinion, I think that Blight Haulers and drones are somewhat of an auto take, I guess. This is my opinion, and I do appreciate you guys, real quick. I do appreciate you guys talking, also sharing your views on the Plague Marine ones. That's what I'm trying to do these videos on, so we can talk about things as a community, as people who like this faction and like to share ideas. Like, look, I know you guys weren't happy that I was talking about putting the Plague Surgeon into, and he must be because of his 60 points, 65 points. I know some of you guys don't think that he's going to get his points back, but since I'm making this video, I do get to rebuttal this a little bit, and I can see your points on the Plague Surgeon. However, I think what you're missing is the fact that he still hits okay. He still hits pretty hard with 5 attacks and minus two damage and a strength. I think it's a 6 or 7 weapon, which is actually not bad. But on average, for me, he brings back 2 to 3 Plague Marines in rounds 1, 2, and 3. Okay, for me. I don't know how you guys are running them. I don't know how you're running your Plague Marines. And if you're running them up the board and they're just getting wiped off the table within the first round of shooting, I can understand where you don't want to put the Plague Marine in there, and the Foul Blight Spawn might be something better. But I think that you're overlooking somewhat of the value of this. Like the Apothecary for Space Marines, everybody takes him. He can't do what he did last edition, but he's still pretty good, and he's still an auto take. So I think that's the same idea behind the Plague Surgeon. Okay, again, I can see the point. I see your point that he may not be the way you guys run him. He may not be getting his points back, and I see that. I understand it, and I respect that. I also like the fact that you guys gave me some combinations that you guys play and you guys felt helpful in your games. I wasn't using the Foul Blight Spawn like a lot of you guys are. And I think that's a great idea to run them in a Rhino. And I think there's a lot of number one. Let's get it straight. I don't have a Rhino. These are things that I'm actually starting to work in my collection now. But I can see some of the points you guys are making for different characters, and I appreciate that. And I'm glad you leave them in the comments because it gives me the ability to then play them and then put them on the channel and see how they work. The Putrefier is another one where I got some great comments about the Putrefier and how to run him and using the grenade strat, which I don't do, but it's a great idea, and I'm glad that we share it because the idea of these are to talk about it as to share things in the comments. All right, Plague Marine's done. Let's talk about some Daemon Engines. first one I want to get into, and I'll put the card up on the screen. The Death Guard Flyer is 190 points. His stat line actually 8-inch move, 10-inch tough or 10 toughness, hits on threes, 4 wounds, and 6 OC. I'm sorry, and a 6+ leadership and 5 OC. I think is pretty standard, I guess, for Demon Engines around this. 14 wounds is pretty good. Toughness 10 is pretty good. I mean, it's equivalent to a Plague Burst Crawler, a little bit more points though. But what he does is I think the weapon loadout is actually pretty decent. You guys let me know how you feel about it. I mean, his basic war gear loadout is a Defiler cannon, which is 48 inches, D6 plus 3 shots, which is kind of average for even like we're used to that with Demon with the Plague Burst. Ballistic Seal 3, Strength 10, -1, 3 damage, and if you put that with Sanguis Flux, it's -2. I can actually see that with being 3 damage. I can actually see that being pretty good. I really can. And the Reaper auto cannon again, devastating wounds, just the same hits on that. 4 shots, 36 inches. Strength 7, -1 damage, but devastating. Or you can replace that with the last cannon, a twin last cannon, or twin plague heavy bolters, both with lethal hits essentially. And then you got twin heavy flamers, or you can replace it with havoc launchers, Defiler Scourge, which is add attacks in melee, and then his just the Defiler claws in melee, which is actually pretty good. But the loadout he comes with the twin heavy flamers, pretty good. I like twin heavy flamers because it seems like I want him to get a little closer than what he does. The Reaper autocannon, actually, I like the Reaper autocannon personally because of devastating wound and sustained hits. 4 shots, hitting on threes, strength 7, -1 damage. But it's the length, it's the distance that I like about it, and the devastating wounds, especially if I'm shooting into something that I just need to pick off a wound on. But the Defiler cannon is actually pretty decent. All right. Then we look at the abilities, which are the Scuttling Walker, which means he can move. He can make normal move advances over friendly monster and vehicle units in terrain less than 4 inches. That's okay. I mean, we don't really run into that a lot, but I can see how that can be very helpful. And the claws, the Defiler claws, which are 5 attacks, hits on threes, strength 16, -3, D6 +1, pretty decent. Plus being a 5+ invuln is actually pretty good. Guys, honestly, I don't have one of these, but it does intrigue me because of the weapons. Okay, are the weapons? I'll ask you for those who have them. Are the weapons do they just look good on cards, on the data card, or is it something that is actually playable? At 190 points, it's got to be playable, right? Besides it, again, and I always preference these little videos by it's got to look cool, right? I'm a big fan of rule of cool first. So if you have a Defiler and he's awesome and he looks great and you want to put him on the table, do it. I don't care how many points it is. Just do it. That's how I felt about Mortarion. I didn't care how many points he was in 9th, 8th, 9th, and now 10th edition. He was on the table because I like the model. I think it's cool. I like Mortarion and the lore. So I actually think it's cool to use Mortarion. So that's why I'll put it on the channel. That's why I put it on the table all the time. So the file I think has some play, but 190 points in a Death Guard list, as we know as Death Guard players and guys who know this, points are hard to come by because we need those points. They're literally a rare commodity. 190 points in the Death Guard list can't strap our hands, right? Because points are a rarity, and we really do need the points. And is it worth 190 points? I don't know. You guys tell me, because I don't have one and I don't play one, but it does look interesting to me because I think in an army that shooting, we're starting to get more shooting and we're starting to open up the can a little bit, but I think shooting is a rarity, and it can definitely be something that is helpful, right? So you guys let me know how you feel about it. I think I put a question mark next to this one because I don't have it and I don't play it on the table. So I don't know how it is. But the card definitely intrigues me enough that I'm like, you know what, I might have to get one of these models and put it on the list of models to get and see what it does on a table because I'm intrigued. Like I said, you guys let me know how you feel about it. I'm really curious. See how you guys tell me how you run it. Do you run it by Mortarion? This way he ignores a lot of the modifiers. Do you run it on itself? Do you leave it out as an open flank? I think if I did have one, it's going to be out by himself and it's going to be a threat coming from one side. Just I'll line him up on the other side of Mortarion and my Plague Burst Crawlers, put him on one side, and just kind of let him. So you have to at least commit to this, or you have to commit to this. So it gives me some open lanes to get in and take more of the battlefield instead of just running everything up the middle or have you concentrate on Mortarion and my Plague Burst Crawler battery. I can have something else as another threat here. And that's kind of the idea I would use it for. But it does have the ability to be killy. And that's another good thing. But is it worth 190 points? I don't know. Like I said, put a question mark next to that one because I'm not sure because I don't have one and I don't play one. Okay, let's put the other card on. Put the other card up, which is going to be the Plague Burst Crawlers. All right, guys, we all know what Plague Burst Crawlers do, but I'm going to read the card just if you guys are new. If anybody's new that's watching, let's take a look at it. So we have the Plague Burst Crawler, 10-inch movement, toughness 10, hits on saves on 2s. I'm sorry, saves on 2s. Actually, I think I'm saves on 2s. 12 wounds, leadership of 6, 4 OC. The biggest thing of why we take Plague Burst Crawlers is because of the mortars, because of the indirect, which is, so it is equipped with entropy cannons, or you can equip it with Plague Spitters. But those are the two you can do it. I typically use the entropy cannons because there are tanks on the board, and nobody's being vehicles, and D6+1 at strength 10. AP3 is actually still pretty good. But again, then you can equip with the heavy slugger, which I do, which is just trying to get the most out of my shooting, and then, or I can use a Wrath volley gun, which is going to be it's one less shot. You can see it's lethal. It's rapid fire 3. I can see where that could be useful, but I don't want things to be that. I don't want things to be within 12 inches of my Plague Burst Crawler, which is why I don't take Plague Spitters, because I don't want anything to be within 12 inches of my Plague Burst Crawler, because I need the indirect fire to go over to hit stuff in the back of my opponent's back line. So the object armor tracks, it's okay. Spore laced shockwaves, which is spore laced shock, which is the ability. So why do, and people, I think it's funny that people laugh at this, but why do every time you shoot a mortar at someone, it's going to take a battle shock test? Because if it is battle shocked, if that unit's battle shocked, there's a couple things that happen. Number one, it can't use stratagems. So it can't use any strats to stay alive. All right. So that means it clearly can't bring stuff back. So if I wipe out a unit of guardsmen, or I wipe out a unit of Genestealer Cult, and they trying to, or whatever, that can bring units back as if they were, that strat that allows you to bring units back, they can't use it because if they fail battle shock, you can't use a strat on them. So that's one reason. The other reason is if they're battle shocked, that's the biggest reason. That's really the only reason, is you can't use a strat on them because, you just don't want that unit to be buffed out. You want to be able to kill it, right? You want to make it weaker. You want to be able to kill it. That is nice. That's one of the nice things about it. The other thing is, indirect is really powerful, right? If I need to kill something, you guys have seen the bat reps. I mean, you got to watch them, and when you watch them, you see sometimes they whiff, but the indirect is powerful. It does keep my opponents, and it does keep your opponents thinking about the fact that if I'm just going to leave a little 5-man weak 100-point model, or 60-point model on the back objectives, Death Guard has the ability to take that unit off. Now they have to keep units back, and it keeps them a little bit from playing the game, stops them from moving up the board with everything, stops them from really spreading out because of the ability to take off stuff out of the backfield. Putting them by Mortarion is absolutely huge, because a Mortarion, his Lord of Death Guard, allows you to ignore all modifiers within 6 inches of him. So that indirect fire, where you're adding one to the characteristic, doesn't exist because you can't do that when Mortarian's around them. So that's actually really, really helpful. You also can't armor contempt around him when they're around Mortarian either, so you're not minusing the -1 AP on the mortar. All right, so that's actually pretty nice. So there's a couple things, and you can also hit them with the strat. This again, Sanguine's Flux, which is actually pretty good, adds 1 AP to 1 AP to critical. Right, I believe that's what it was. One AP to the critical, and where everything's lethal anyway. So that's pretty good. And then if it's around an objective, again, now that's +2 AP, which is also pretty good. So now my +1 AP mortar is going to -2 AP, and you can't do anything about it if I'm spotting it with my Lord of Virulence. Again, there's a combination on that. We'll get into that. I don't want to get into that right away, but that's still has a 5-up invuln, which is pretty good. Keeping them around Mortarion. Now, I do find two things with this. Number one, I think that you have to run 3 of these to be effective. Okay, that's number one. I think that there's a sweet spot of 3. These come in at 165 points, which isn't bad. So, like I said, points are limited for Death Guard, and depending on how you want to run your army, depending on how many of these are going to bring, Mortarion and 3 of these is pretty expensive. You're getting around that 700 point mark, 800 point mark, but it can also be very effective as well. So that's the way I like to run them around Mortarion. Some of you guys, I've seen some lists with Plague Burst Crawlers without Mortarion, which I think is intriguing to me because indirect is such a huge part of Plague Burst Crawlers that ignoring the modifier, I think, is actually really good. The second thing that the second thing that concerns me about them is, besides having to take them in 3, is they're so swingy that sometimes that's why the third one's necessary, right? Because I'm sure everybody that plays Plague Burst Crawlers know sometimes on that D6 plus 3, you roll a 1 and you're only getting 4 shots, and you're hitting on 3s, and you're missing everything. And then, or attribute cannons hitting on 3s, and you're missing stuff there. I know I've seen people run them with the Plague Spitters, and that's great. Like I said, I just don't want people that close to me that they're able to do that. That's why another reason why I keep them around Mortarion, because of the intervention, right? So Plague Burst Crawlers definitely, I think, should be in a list. Unless you hate them, then obviously you run what you want to run. You guys let me know how many Plague Burst Crawlers are you finding in your sweet spot. I think it's 3, but you guys could give me some ideas of how you run them, if you do run them on Mortarion, or other ways you like to run them. So let's put up the next card, which is going to be the Foetid Bloat Drone, which I think is, with the points drop, is really awesome. Okay, so if I could take more than 3, I would, because they're 100 points each. Toughness, movement 10, toughness 9, save a 3-up save, also a 3+ save, but a 5-up invuln, 10 wounds, leadership 6, and OC of 3. You can take them with either heavy blight launcher, which are lethal hits, 6 attacks, hitting on 3, strength 8, -2, 2 damage, 36 inches, or you could take them with 2 plague spitters, which are going to be 2 basically D6 shots each. It is tolerant anti-infantry 2, and it auto hits strength 6, -1 damage. Or you could take a melee kitted out, which are going to be with flesh mowers, and which are 10 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 7, -1, 2 damage. I do like that actually with Sanguine's Flux, that gives them sustained hits. That's actually pretty decent. And Fabric Bite as well on if you're looking at something with the Flamers, the Plague Spitter. So and they have the ability, Hoovering Death, that allows you to fall back and charge even if this unit fell back, or shoot and charge even if the unit fell back. Look, Deadly Demise 1, not really important, but let me tell you this, guys. 3 of these things at 100 points each You've seen on some bat reps, you guys seen if you play them, if you have them, you've seen this. They are hard to take off the board. And I'm not sad when you focus everything you have and your opponent focuses a lot of their gunfire at a 100-point drone instead of at my 300-point block of Terminators or Mortarion or my Plague Burst Crawlers or anything else that's going to do my damage. I'm not upset about it because I do have two other drones somewhere along the board just floating around. Not to mention that you can make them killy and you can get them into melee with the infantry units and or even something a little bit like not as strong as they are, but get them into melee and they can do some work. These are such a utility tool, in my opinion. I think it's one of the best tools in the codex or in the index card, I will say, of Death Guard. I would love to hear your arguments against them. I would, because I don't, as a Death Guard player or just as a 40K player, at 100 points, to do what these things do at 100 points, man, it's so good. Like it's just so. I can't tell you the tool. They're like Swiss Army knives. If you need them to go on one part of the corner, you need them to go here. You need them to take some shots. Then you can deadly demise. Or then you can Gifts of Decay them and you can heal them back. I mean, they just take so many shots. And now that Meltas aren't as good as they were, they can actually take Meltifier and you're still hitting on 3. You're still hitting on 5s. I mean, they're just at 100 points. That's what makes them really good. At 100 points, you can equip them and make them either melee or shooty. I just think, like I said, it's almost, again, for me, in the way I play, the way I run Death Guard, it's almost a no-brainer. However, if you guys can, I would love to hear it, guys. I want you guys to be nice and friendly about it, but I would love to hear your argument or not even an argument. I would love to hear your point of why you think if someone's out there that thinks that floated the drones are not good. I would love to hear why. I'm just curious because I think they're really good. I think it's a good unit, and I think you should have one on the table. At least have 2 or 3 of them, right? If you can, because 300 points is pretty good. Let's go now to the next card, which is going to be the Malefic Blight Hauler, which comes in at a whopping 100 points as well. We have 10-inch movement, toughness 9, 3-up save. Also has a 5-up invuln. Weapon skill of, wounds 10, leadership of 6, and OC of 3. It's basically kitted out with plague spurts, which are basically 12-inch flamers. But you do have to hit on these. It is a flamer, but you still have to hit. It's 3 shots. Ballistic Seal 3, 5-up, no AP, 1 damage. They're within 12 inches. They are lethal. You get a choice. You do get a missile launcher, but you can shoot a crack or a frag grenade. Just like everything else, crack grenade, strength 9, minus 2 d6 damage. 1 shot, or the frag 6 d6. 3 hits on 3s. Strength 4, 0, minus 0 AP, and 1 damage. And then you have the Meltas. Okay, the Meltas, which are 18 inches, which they did switch up a little bit. But 18-inch Meltas, 18-inch Meltas, you are Melta 2, I should say. Got 2 shots of those Meltas. Ballistic skill 3, strength 9. So you're actually wounding these guys on 9, the same as the blow, or on 4, the same as the blow but it's 50%. And then minus 4 d6 damage. We know what Meltas do. And then Gnashing of Mauls, which is going to be your melee attack. It is lethal like everything else in the Death Guard Codex. And it's 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 6, minus 1 AP, 1 damage. Tank Hunter is actually pretty decent. It's wounding even when you hit with Meltas. You got your strength 9 Melta bombs or Meltas, but it's going to hit vehicles plus 1 to wound, which is actually pretty decent when you're hitting vehicles that are now toughness 10 and you're hitting on 5s back down to 4s, which is actually pretty good, makes your chances of 50%. Just like drones, these guys come in at 100 points. So the difference with the durability of both the drones and the blade haulers are pretty, obviously they're comparable. They're exactly the same, right? You can take one blade hauler, you can move them up the board, you can split them up into three, and you can move them all over the board, and you can treat them like you would a shooty drone, right? Definitely can see that working, and I think that's actually pretty good, especially because it kicks out more shots. The only problem that I see when you're trying to make them shooty is that they're big. Your big strength weapon, which is your meltas, are only 18 inches. So these guys do have to get a little bit closer, which sets your opponent up to maybe get off a charge and lock these things up in combat. Now, there are vehicles that can shoot in combat. Big guns never tire. We all know the rule, right? What makes blood haulers more interesting to me is running them in groups of three. Like, you can actually bring this in one unit of three, which is for 300 points, and now it makes a tougher unit to get off the board. So this is good, in my opinion, if you just want to run up the board and you just want to hold the middle or stay out, or take an objective somewhere somewhere on the map, take an objective and just sit there and hold it and just shoot a bunch of fire out of that one objective, because it has the ability to at least hold down, unless of course you get in some crazy shooting, right? But it has the ability to at least hold down one objective with three, but it's you're committing 300 points to it. But I think you have that objective for 4 rounds, depending on how shooting and how much melee your opponent has. But I think you're safe to at least hold it for first and second round and get this maximum points out of it if need be. It's a hard unit to get off the board at toughness 9, 30 wounds. Yeah, toughness 9, 30 wounds to get off the board when you can deadly demise and bring stuff. I'm not deadly demise, but gifts of decay, and can keep just regenning some of those wounds back. So that's, again, an interesting take. It doesn't hurt my feelings if someone says, you know what, I'd rather run blade haulers over drones, just because of the shooting aspect of it, or just because of the 300 points I can put into one unit. I have seen lists where they've had 3 units of 3, which equals 9. Obviously 900 points are tied up in these malefic blade haulers, and that's, I guess, okay if you're just running up the middle of the board and just sitting on 3 objectives in no man's land. I guess that would work. I haven't seen that list do well, but I guess that's a possibility. You let me know if you guys have tried it. You gotta let me know how that works, because I don't. I just see it handicapping you in the mission, essentially not allowing you to do other things that you need to do, depending on if you're drawing cards or not. Maybe if you're playing just a straight selected secondaries, where you're not playing tactical, you're playing a fixed secondary mission, I can see that maybe working. But you're also giving your opponent the ability to, they can also play fixed, and you can get vehicles, bring it down like crazy, max it out pretty easily. But let's go to combinations real quick. And I just touched on the one combination with blade haulers, is the fact that you can bring them in units of 3, even though that's part of their built-in ability. Bringing them within a unit of 3 is actually pretty decent combination. Really, it is, because you're still, and then you can spend 1 strat on them if you want to do like, you want to do like Furbic Blade on them, and make all their AP go higher. The only thing I don't like, I mean, you're usually using 6 melta shots at someone, but you got to stay within range, right? So there's some options. I'm not going to get into all that, but there's some options that you could do with 3 of them and use strats and be pretty decent, right, on that. Drones, there's really no combination for drones. You just put 1 on the board, put 3 of them on the board, 2 of them on the board, 100 points, run out, do whatever you got to do with them, like I said earlier when I talked about the drones. Plague Burst Crawlers are really the only thing that you can do a combo with, and that's a combination with Mortarion, right? Putting a Plague Burst Crawler, I touched on it already, putting the Plague Burst Crawler in the list with Mortarion, within 6 inches of Mortarion, ignores the indirect fire penalty, ignores all character modifiers but save modifiers. Also, you include a Lord of Virulence in your list, and if he can see anything, basically spotting, you're adding one to the blast weapon, which is the mortars, and you're not giving him cover, which is also pretty big. So now your combination of Mortarion, Blade Hauler, Lord of Virulence is hitting on twos because you're adding one to the hit roll. You're adding one to the hit, so you're hitting on twos. You got strength 8 weapon. You partner that up with Ferbic Blight again. Now your mortars go from AP 1 to AP 2. No one can use anything to modify any of that. And then with the Lord Variant seeing them, you get cover. You get to ignore cover, which is actually pretty decent, right? That's actually pretty good when you can get all that combination off. And it's pretty easy to get off 1 CP, and getting the Lord Variants out. I mean, you play peekaboo with them, you peek them out. We're going to run the risk of him getting shot. That's why I like to build him behind Terminators. So it's a little bit harder to kill him, so I can get that combination off. But again, that's probably one of the best batteries that I've seen in the Death Guard Index. You guys let me know if you guys think there's a better battery than that you're going to build your list on all the time because it's more effective than Mortarion and Plagueburst Crawlers. I would love to know this because I'm having a hard time finding it. But again, I'm not literally critiquing every single thing. I play a lot of games, so I'm trying to and more multiple armies. So I can't just focus on one, even though I've been doing that on the channel. I don't just focus on one army. So that is my my little quick. I don't know how quick this video was, but that was my little quick synopsis of Daemon Engines. I want to know your guys' combinations. I want to know what you guys think, because this is like I said, this is a channel where we share things, and this is just my opinions of them. I want to know what your guys' opinion on them. Please leave the comments below. Let me know. How do you feel about the Defiler? Are you as intrigued as the Defiler as I am? Do you guys, whoever has one, do you run them? Do you run him, and does he do work for you? I'm curious if he's effective. How many Plagueburst Crawlers do you think are the sweet spot of a list with Mortarion in it? Do you even run Mortarion with it? How do you use your Plagueburst Crawlers? Are you just in it for the indirect fire at 165 points? Is that worth it to you? Do you run 3 drones? Do you run 1 drone? Do you run Blade Haulers? I would love to know what you guys think, because you guys actually, believe it or not, help me when I go out to tournaments and stuff, and I play different combinations, or I'm just playing on the channel. I play the combinations that you guys suggest, because it not just helps me, but it also helps the Death Guard community or the 40K community, because then you learn how to do different things and you learn how to react to different things. So guys, I appreciate it. Please leave your comments below. Check out maybe you want to become a member and just help support the channel and like what I do, so I can bring you some more content. One update on the website: we have severe delays on the website, which will have the store in it where we can get shirts. Just out of curiosity for me, if you guys watch this and you guys are interested in getting any kind of apparel, hats, which will look like this, or shirts, let me know. Just put in the comments so I just know some interest. We're having some issues getting the website ready and getting the store up and running, but I like to know how many of you guys are interested. With all that being said, guys, as always, I thank you guys and appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys commenting. I appreciate you guys, everything that you guys are doing to help this community grow. And as always, God bless and peace out.